The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Trevor Noah hosted the Grammy Awards last night. I like Trevor Noah a lot, but ouch, that was not good, Trevor. The word hack even went through my mind. Trevor praised Beyonce, well-deserved, and asked what was more culturally significant, the Renaissance or Beyonce's Renaissance? I think that same joke appears on Kunk on Earth on Netflix. We'll talk about that later. You should be watching that. Trevor also referenced the spy balloon and said, my job is to be your eyes, your ears. I'll be floating around this AM radio. Think of me like a Chinese spy balloon. Thought I was going to have a lot more to say about Trevor Noah, but I don't. Ugh, not good, man. You know what was good? Saturday Night Live, and they opened with a segment about the spy balloon, and great job out of them because that story was only, like 7 hours old by the time SNL aired, and they crushed it in the opener. Bowen Yang dressing up as the spy balloon, very, very funny. It's also a fantastic game show sketch about movies. If you haven't seen it, I shared it on the Facebook group page, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. Spoilers, the big joke there is nobody can name any movies or movie stars from the last 5 years. I watched it and I was like, wow. Shared it with my wife who was like, wow, really good. And let's stop off at Gossip Corner. Pete Davidson, he's bald now. Over the weekend, he showed up at a Knicks game with Jon Stewart and Hassan Minhaj. Interesting company there. Pete was wearing a sturdy gray shacket, according to Yahoo. What's a shacket? Shirt jacket, I guess? And shielding his eyes with black aviator sunglasses. Then he attended a screening of M. Night Shyamalan's latest thriller, Knock at the Cabin. He was wearing a New York or Nowhere baseball cap, but under the baseball cap, he has shaved his head. Pete was also at the Pro Bowl. Busy weekend for Pete Davidson. Detroit Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, apparently a fan of Pete Davidson. St. Brown showed Pete Davidson his #1 fan tattoo. It's unclear if the tattoo is real or not, but Pete said, "Oh, dude, that's so dope. Thank you, man. That's amazing. I hope it comes off." ABC caught up with Colin Quinn. Hey, Colin Quinn, many comedians revere you. Do you ever give them advice? Colin said, I couldn't give advice. They know better than me what they need to do. They're the ones that are cutting up clips and throwing them out. I'd be like, hey, try to get on Letterman. And they're like, what? He doesn't have a show anymore. Or, hey, try to get a sitcom. The only advice I could ever give is if you're not writing new stuff a lot, you're going to stagnate. It's almost like the opposite of musicians. Musicians, with a few exceptions, the first couple albums are their best, and then they just can't really capture the magic. With stand-up, you can't rest. Nobody's going to say play your hits, very rarely. So you have to keep writing. The more you do it, it gets easier to know what direction to focus on when you're writing, but you have to keep working at the same pace your whole career. There's no coasting in stand-up. All right, Colin, has woke culture affected your comedy? Colin Quinn said, there's so many subjects that people will not laugh at. So if you even identify, not just make a stereotype, if you identify anyone's ethnicity, the room tightens up. There's a lot of subtle areas, some good, most bad, in my opinion, that it affects. It's not all of comedy, but it's definitely had a big effect, One more. Hey, Colin, you're friends with Jerry Seinfeld and Amy Schumer. What's it like when you go out to dinner? Colin said, nobody's really fighting for attention, but everybody's being funny the whole time. I mean, it's our thing, you know what I mean? So what we do. It's hard to really say what it looks like, but we did a few weeks ago and it was just hilarious. And Amy's baby son was there, Gene. It's like a throwaway line. It's not big and gregarious laughs. It's more like a series of sarcastic or snotty remarks to each other. NPR had on Brian Posehn. Yeah, he was talking about his work on Mr. Show. He said it opened up a lot of doors for his career. He said, I owe everything to those two dudes. It really got me out there. Adding that the right people who know comedy saw the show and his work. That's how I got on Big Bang Theory, and that's how I got on Just Shoot Me, and that's how I got all these other shows. It's because the writers were fans of Mr. Show and knew what I could do. He was asked if he could meet anyone in the world that he's never met before, and he said, forget that. He wants to meet Rush again. He said, if I could be in a room with Rush again and actually meet Alex and Getty and just talk to them like human beings and not as a screaming fan. I had a moment with them, and I got to take a picture with them, but I botched it so hard. I called Getty Sir twice in the same sentence. He also told a story about 20 years ago when he and Patton Oswalt met Don Rickles. They were there to offer advice to Don Rickles. I did not misspeak. They're not getting advice from Don Rickles. They were giving advice to Don Rickles, who was about to do a college tour. Brian said, it's ridiculous. Like, how could we have anything to give to him advice-wise? But we still took the meeting. Pat and I were both like, this sounds so dumb, but let's go and meet the man, It was one of the greatest hour and a halves of my life. He made fun of the way we were dressed. He told Patton and I, hey, if your kids come to the house, why didn't you dress up, all right? My wife will think you're the gardeners, like cute kids, but where's the rake? And we were just losing it. The Guardian interviewed Tig Notaro. Tig seems like she's no fun. I've heard her on podcasts, and she gets kind of frosty. And look at these short answers here, again, from The Guardian. Here's the question. Who'd you look up to when you started out? First answer, all right, a real answer. Tig. In the open mic comedy scene I was coming up in, I love my friends Maria Bamford, Zach Galifianakis, Chris Fairbanks, Martha Kelly, and a million others. The professional comedians I was into prior to starting stand-up would have been Richard Pryor, Stephen Wright, Paula Poundstone, Steve Martin, Eddie Murphy, Ellen DeGeneres, and Joan Rivers. Great answer, but here we go. Guardian, can you recall a gig so bad it's now funny? Tig, the first 2 years of my career. Guardian, do you have any pre-show rituals? Tig, I like to not think much about the show. I go about my day or evening like I would any other, just show up and walk on stage. Guardian, best heckle? Tig, can't say I've ever been impressed by a heckle, nor have I ever been really put off by one either. Guardian, you recently said you're bad at saying no to opportunities. You're becoming better at it? Tig, I always think I will, then I'm here saying yes to this interview. Guardian, what are you excited for now? Tig, spending some more time at home, hoping to learn to garden and golf and mostly go on our summer family vacation. Guardian, any bugbears from the world of comedy? Tig, the world of comedy is such a microcosm of the entire world these days. It's just so divided. I think the negativity starts to really get me down. I try to gravitate more towards nicer, sillier people and vibes. That's coming across in this transcript, I'll tell you that. Best advice you've ever been given, Tig? Tig said, there's two. The best gift you can give anyone is a well-lived life of your own, and no one thing will make or break you. Worst advice you've ever been given? She said, go to business school. W. Kamau Bell is having none of this Bill Cosby on tour business. He said, it's clear to me there are people around Bill Cosby who feel the need to keep his name in the press. He's 85 years old. I don't know a lot of 85-year-old comedians on tour, especially with his history. I know that my name's forever going to be tied to Bill Cosby because of this project, and I'm proud of the work I put into it, and I stand by it, but I won't be buying tickets if he goes on tour. From the Crimson, your home for comedy news and a newspaper from Harvard, Karen Chi, class of 17, fancy. She's a comedic big dog, or at least that's what her coworkers call her. How'd she get the name? She said, oh, I gave myself the nickname. They had written my phone number down incorrectly on a contact sheet at work, so when I went to correct it, I asked them to please also write my name as Karen Big Dog Chi. So she now works on Late Night with Seth Meyers, and her coworkers call her Big Dog. Great nickname. She describes herself as a bit of a square. And she has a daily to-do list that consists solely of making chocolate chip pancakes, finishing a book, and doing a puzzle. But the name has stuck. Her default Zoom username is now Big Dog She Her Hers. She says Seth Meyers is a man with a demeanor that she compares to the friendly neighborhood dad who coaches the local soccer team. It's great. Genuinely, I'm a big Seth Meyers fan outside of work. But I don't need to say that. We don't need his ego to explode. And from Yahoo, one woman on TikTok had enough of bad dates. She drafted up a ghosting exit survey to send to somebody who rudely ghosted her. Comedian Stephanie D'Agostino. She's at StephDag on TikTok. She said, so I recently got ghosted by a guy who I didn't even like, so it was devastating. I emailed him this ghosting exit survey to fill out. All right, here are the questions. Ready? Question number 1. Please provide a 1 to 2 sentence example of why you did it. For example, you were intimidated by my beauty, you hate yourself, you're broken, I'm too good for you. I'm going to play along here. So I've been married for 25 years. The last time I ghosted somebody was probably 30 years ago. Why did I ghost her? I was just dating someone else that I was clicking with better. Question number 2. Please circle if I am more cute, hot, sexy, or pretty. Can and must circle all 4. I'm going to stop answering in case my wife downloads the podcast. Question number 3, please explain why you did not write in smart for the last question, you misogynist. Love it. From there, she digs even deeper, asking the mysterious ghoster to provide the names, emails, and phone numbers of at least 2 of their exes, as well as their birth mother. She even asked for his social security number. Last but not least, D'Agostino gives the guy the option of choosing one form of compensation to relieve her of all her emotional distress. They include a series of hilarious, ridiculous things, ranging from buying her mom a condo in Florida to giving her all of her streaming passwords. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. Buymeacoffee.com/daily comedy news. My voice is cracking. And I've only got this much left. See you tomorrow. Did you hear about the border collie who recycles trash when he's out on his walks? Or how about the bear that stole someone's Chick-fil-A, but good news, left the salad behind? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, host of 5 Good News Stories. Don't worry, I have stories about humans too, like there's a woman who makes a living because she looks like Jim Carrey. It's my podcast. It's 5 Good News Stories. 5 Good News Stories. The number 5 Good News Stories. Twice a week. 5 Good News Stories. Oh, and Shamrock Shakes are back too. Good news. 5 Good News Stories, wherever you get your shows.